Welcome to the Speaker Meeting, a space where we break the silence one story at a time. Every episode, you'll hear from someone who's been there, through the struggle of addiction, the turning point into recovery, and the journey after. Because no matter where you are, you're not alone. Recovery is possible, and hope is real. My hope is that by sharing these stories, you'll believe it to be true. My name is Chibi. My sobriety date is April 5th, 2024, and this is the Speaker Meeting.
Okay, my name is Brian. My name is Brian Manning, if we need to go further than that. And my sobriety date is March 13, 2021.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for taking the time to come on the show and tell your story. I'm excited to dive into it and hear a little bit more. But we have a tradition on this podcast wherein the guest will... typically the guest is in person and we'll pick a random tarot card from a random tarot deck.
Okay.
But because we're doing this virtually,
I can reach in and pick it.
Because we're doing
now,
it virtually.
If I actually had a tarot card, that would be fascinating.
That would, but I went ahead and channeled you, and I picked a random tarot card from a random tarot deck, and we use this as a way to kind of ground the conversation, not in any sort of divination sense. And the card that I pulled for you is the World, which is the last card in the Major Arcana. And it speaks to this idea of wholeness, of completion and integration, right? And in recovery terms, it can kind of mirror the feeling of finally coming full circle, seeing how all that messy, painful, and beautiful parts of the journey fit together, right? It's not about perfection, but about being present in that kind of fullness, right? The idea of gathering up all the broken pieces of our lives and finding a way to put them back together in some way that makes sense to us.
The sobriety glue gun.
Yes, exactly. The world can also point to freedom, right? Stepping into a bigger, more connected sense of self and of community. So I always like to ask, how does this card resonate with you and your recovery journey?
Well, you just mentioned it, and you started to describe what the card means in its tarot sense.
Yeah.
I think it resonates incredibly well with sobriety. The idea of not being whole, understanding now in retrospect the absence of wholeness in my life, and what were the things I was doing to try to fill it, where it was not very successful. And then, looking back at it now, maybe 4.5 years in retrospect, I don't believe I've ever been happier. And when I say happy, I don't mean like, yay! It's a sense of contentment, a sense of peace, which is the complete opposite of the fun that I was chasing to try to fill some of those voids, or the escapism, or how do I deal with my dyslexia, my anxiety, my brain that doesn't seem to work like everybody else's. Oh, look at this wonderful thing that I can use, and then it wasn't so wonderful anymore.
Yeah. Until it doesn't. Well, then let's just take it back to the beginning, shall we? What was your relationship like with addictive substances or behaviors in the beginning, and then how did that evolve over time?
Those are great questions. I grew up in Puerto Rico, and so I grew up in a culture very, very heavy in the consumption of alcohol as part of just social interaction. I had access to beer since I was 13 years old. We'd sneak the beer cans at the family party or it's just, and then it was laughed at. It was like, you didn't get in trouble, from some of the adults there. Like my parents would get mad at me, but some of the adults would sort of laugh. Oh, look, they're getting started early.
Yeah.
And I started around 13 with alcohol predominantly, and in Puerto Rico you could drink at 18, so there wasn't a lot of it wasn't like this thing that, oh, I got to be 21 and it's going to be so great. I used to think that the people who turned 21 and go out would get drunk, I thought they were foolish because I'm like, I'm an expert at this already.
Yeah.
And I think culturally, alcohol was such a part of how I grew up that it just was normal. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I was also really good at it. One of those things you don't want to be good at, but I was good at it. And so alcohol was just a normal part of life. Mm-hmm. It was something to do while I was working on school projects. It was something to do after the school projects. It was mostly evening or, social, or while I'm working in the architecture studio. And, but it was excessive, I guess. There was a lot of drinking done. I think New York, and my master's degree was where other substances started to become a problem. Mm-hmm. Cocaine was a way to stay up to finish projects. Mm-hmm. Somebody with ADHD explained to me that, certain substances like that on some of us have a calming effect, mm-hmm. A focus effect. And I for some reason I was afraid of, prescribed medication, but then I'd go self-medicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant, right?
That's the logic.
Because I know more than my psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Life went on. New York, I got, I was pretty heavy into drinking when I was doing my master's degree. It was just almost, it was an everyday thing. And it was there was a lot of it. Mm-hmm. I didn't think there was a problem. Blackouts, not knowing how I got home, all that, fun stuff. Mm-hmm. I think the worst episode in New York, I woke up handcuffed to a gurney, and I had no idea how I got there. Mm-hmm. And still the stove wasn't hot enough. I kept putting my hand back on it, like if I had some sort of control. And then when you can mix substances, you realize that, if this is starting to be a little bit too much, if I add a little bit of this, then I can keep going. Yeah. And, that I thought was fun. I thought it was a fun way to live until fast forward, I'm married, children in Laredo, and alcohol just seems to be just as important. Yeah. And even in the theater guild, I would do plays completely drunk. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was actually good enough to be able to function. That's that horrible word, functional alcoholic, right? That's horrible because we're not really functioning. Yeah. I would call it more like fooling alcoholic, because we may be fooling some other people, but predominantly fooling ourselves. Yeah. And then, I had some rough scenarios with my job, working for my best friend, a doctor here in Laredo. Mm-hmm. And, alcohol was a big part of our friendship. Everything was done drinking. And that friendship started to fall apart. I wasn't very happy at my job. I finally got some help. I started going to see a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. Because I felt suicidal. That's just where life had gotten. So I'm so frustrated with where I was at and what I was doing. And what I learned is that a lot of times depression comes from anger that you turn inward. Mm-hmm. And so I was extremely depressed, and seeing a psychiatrist, and he prescribed some medication, and that's good. But it did recommend that you stop drinking while using. Yeah. And that was one of the recommendations I did not take. Yeah. Because
suggested. I got it. Yeah, suggested, not mandatory.
I know myself. Mm-hmm. I like to think, that I got lucky enough that the powers that be, and I'll say, in my God of my understanding, I believe God pushed me off the ladder that I fell off of while I had, we hear sometimes in recovery groups this idea of planning a drunk, right? So I'd gotten to that point. Drinking started at 9 a.m. Throughout the day. Lunch was 3 or 4 beers, maybe lunch, but definitely the beers. And then hiding it in the garage, keeping it from my wife, promising her I was sober. She put up with it because God knows I wasn't. And so I had planned this all out. I had to go put up a sign that I had made with my laser, and I had my stash. I was right next to Lolita, so I could go in and drink wine, and I was just having, I thought I was having a good time until I fell off this ladder and cracked my ankle. And so there's that moment where the entire charade goes away. Right? So my wife had to come pick me up. And I was obviously drunk.
Yeah.
And she hates this joke. I say she doesn't know the rules of baseball because I was on strike 4. And, somehow, she gave me one more opportunity. And I don't know what necessarily it was about that fall, that moment.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had, somebody had taken me to an AA meeting. And so I went and I listened and I went to the bar. And then I went back again and I listened. And I took the little sobriety chip, that 24-hour chip, and I put it on the bar while I was drinking. Because I'm still in that denial until I, fell off, had this thing with my ankle. Worst hangover of my life. Because I just saw my entire world crumble. Jody was going to take the boys and move back to Puerto Rico, and she had every right to, right? That probably could have really happened. And that scared me enough to show up at that AA meeting on Sunday. I got there late. In my group of recovery, this one gentleman who was there that initially I found him incredibly annoying, but thank God for his presence, because he was the one person that stayed after that meeting and let me bawl my head out. I just sat there, I cried, I was frustrated, I was talking about my family and losing my wife, and the advice I got from this person wasn't necessarily the best, but I'm not going to judge that because he was there for me. He just listened to me. And it gave me this understanding that I've got to surrender. I didn't want to drink anymore. I honestly didn't want to make my family suffer anymore. But I didn't know how to stop. I had no idea how to stop. And I realized in some of the early teachings and stuff that I got from a very good sponsor that I had is that you really have to surrender. I had to give up. I was, okay, look, I can't fight alcohol. I don't have the tools to fight it. So I have to give up. I got to say, look, universe, God, just take this, and I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Excuse my French.
You're fine.
And I'm gonna listen. Something that, as an egocentric driven person, it was hard to do because alcohol has a lot to do with self. Because I'm medicating myself. I'm doing this for myself. I need this for myself. And I learned that the faster I was able to get self out of the picture, the easier it was for me to just listen to some of the advice. Not sit there and overanalyze it, not sit there and think these people are dumb, not sit there and have, just shut the fuck up and listen.
For sure.
And so that was how I got to sobriety.
So I want to put a pin in that idea of surrender and come back to it. But I want to go back to kind of understand where you were in terms of when the escalation was happening, right? When you're talking about your master's in New York, and that drinking just became like an everyday thing. And the way you describe it, it's almost like your mentality was like, well, this is just a normal part of life. And
yes, very much so. I didn't think anything was wrong with it.
And do you think that came from, I swear I was not wearing a Puerto Rican flag today because of you. The universe just does that. But do you think that was something that you learned in your childhood, or... because for anyone that doesn't know, like you and I both come from the world of theater, right? And in theater circles and in artistic rooms, like the drugs and the drinking are aplenty, right? So was it a cultural thing, a childhood thing? Like what normalized it for you?
My parents didn't drink excessively. My parents weren't excessive drinkers. In learning a little bit more about my family, as you do when you try to discover these things in sobriety and try to figure some other things out, we kind of figured out that my grandfather was one of the most important people in my life, who I think passed away now 10 years ago. I've got messages tattooed for him and my grandmother on my rib cage. I loved my grandfather. He's incredibly empathic minister, did amazing things. But he also was an extremely functional alcoholic. He would go visiting people. He'd go visit this family and this family, the congregation. And everybody, pastor, sit down, have a drink. Pastor, sit down, have a drink. And he would just go from house to house to house to house. And I have a jacket of my grandfather's, and I reached in the pocket years later, after he passed away. I reached in the pocket and there was an old roll of breath mints, certs, right? And that's the same reason I had Altoids in the car. Mm-hmm. It was to mask so it's something that we found out a little bit later on in life. So there is a little bit of history genetically, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. My grandfather, my dad's side, died of alcoholism. So there is some of that there. But in the culture I was raised, especially being in the arts, I danced professionally for a number of years. And as you said, in theater, in the dance world, you're working your butt off. And afterwards, you go and you party your butt off. Mm-hmm. And all the things that go with it. But and when I was at school, in architecture school, everybody drank while they worked. Mm. You're up late at night, 4 a.m, you go on a beer run. It's just, and then at Columbia, stress was higher, substances. I literally would budget it out so that I could get through the final, so this is how much I need to get through the finals. Yeah. And so I need to have my alcohol budget. I need to have my Coke budget so that I can get through. And it just became ridiculous. Yeah. And then it compounded here under depression in Laredo, where it's impossible to get, right? So hard to get.
For anyone that's not from the area, it's a border town. It's all there.
And that, again, I think going back to that is that it just seemed like normal as it escalated. So I found myself thinking that everything's okay, everything's under control, I got this, until, holy shit, I don't have anything. Yeah. I do not have this. And it's scary to think what would happen if that little accident on the ladder didn't happen.
Yeah. And like you said, that was your higher power, the universe working in mysterious ways.
And he knows how stubborn I am. He at least had to break my leg.
Yeah. So let's go back to this idea of surrender. And I think the question that I'm going to ask is probably because I just finished doing a writing workshop on sensory details. But when you walk into the rooms of AA or any 12-step program, that's step number one. we admitted we were powerless, right? That idea of surrender, humility. But for a lot of people, it's like, well, what does that look like, right? What does that feel like? What am I supposed to do in order to surrender, right? I don't know what you mean. It's such an abstract concept. Like, what was it for you that surrendering looked like? How did it manifest in you?
Well, I think what helped me gravitate toward that idea of surrender, I had everybody, sometimes you bounce around between sponsors, sometimes you find the right person, sometimes things. There was a gentleman at these groups who was an older gentleman, a writer, an intellectual. That's who I needed as a sponsor. I needed someone who could talk to me about things at a certain level. That's not to say that I couldn't sit in those rooms and listen to somebody else's story, which may not have an elevated vocabulary or a gift of storytelling or anything like this, and not have that story just tear me to tears. Sitting in those rooms, surrounded by people just like me, which gave me the understanding that there's nothing special about me. In that aspect, not that there's nothing special about me, but I'm not unique in this aspect. This is something that many people suffer from. And I think we get into this idea of poor me, or look how my life's all fucked up, and I messed up, and if you stay in that, I'm so like, poor me, you're gonna end up pouring yourself another drink, because you don't get out of misery. And I think for me, what surrender felt like was just letting go of control, letting go of the need to be in control, letting go of this idea that I could get sober. No, I could not get sober. On my own, it was not happening. I tried and failed miserably many times. And that sense of just letting go, and I know it's this cliche, letting go and letting God. These cliches are around for a reason. Yeah. And if you think deeply about them, I'm letting go of all of my preconceptions of how I'm supposed to be in control of life, how I'm supposed to act as a father, how I'm supposed to act as an adult, how I'm supposed to act as a man coming from a machismo society, even though I was raised differently. I had to let go of those preconceptions and just understand, I guess I'm on a journey to get back to know myself. So I had to let go of all that stuff that I had built up while I was drinking, and just surrender. I can't do it. I'm done.
Yeah.
And it felt incredibly like a huge weight coming off my shoulders. That's when I hit my pink cloud, right? Before I did any 4-step work. It just was like, oh, this is gone. Like I'm not in control. I don't have to be in control. I have to follow my program.
Yeah.
And that was different.
So
being in control would mean I would write the program. I needed a guide. I needed to shut the fuck up and follow the rules.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. What were some of the things that you put into practice that kind of kept you on that path?
One of the things I realized about myself, I was an incredible liar. Oh boy. And we all are. All alcoholics. If we're able to lie to ourselves and believe it, we can lie to anybody. And I, in my previous marriage, I was a wonderful liar, even to the point where I got good at lying because I was a little bit afraid of my wife or my ex-wife. And in Jadi, my beautiful, beloved companion and life partner, I was also really, really good at lying to her. I was really good at lying. So one of the things that I kept seeing up on those walls or reading in these passages is the practice of rigorous honesty. I, to my best ability, do not lie to anyone anymore, because I'll even catch myself in a sort of truth, stop it, reel it back. Actually, no, it's more like this. And having some of those little simple guides that I could just grasp onto and say, okay, I need to be rigorously honest. I need to be of service to other people. I need to treat the people who make me angry as a sick person. You know, their anger at me or my anger at them really has no place in my life. If I hold on to any of that, I'm at danger of falling back to where I didn't want to be. Those little details, those little things that are in that 12-step program really just became a guide for how I needed to change how I did things. Mm-hmm. Not only was it good for sobriety, I think it also helped me go back to maybe who I really am. I like being an honest person. I like who I am now. I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, and I also, my wife jokes about it. She said, you know, when you used to drink a lot and you were the center of attention, I thought it was because you were drinking. And we've learned together that has nothing to do. I'm still bubbly and talkative, but I can do all that now and not be in fear of being out of control.
Yeah.
Or being controlled by something else. So it's kind of like I get to be me for the first time in 40 some odd years.
Yeah.
Maybe not 40, maybe 30 something. No, I'm not that old.
I like the way you put it too, because it really paints a picture of what the idea of like living life on life's terms really means, right? And it is that no longer needing to manipulate the situation or like we were talking about, control it earlier. I think probably because coming from the world of theater, that passage in the Big Book about every alcoholic is an actor trying to direct their own show and do the lighting.
That one resonated well.
I was like, damn, okay, yep, that's me. Sorry.
Yep.
So
knowing the script, yelling at the director. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, you know, you talked about that moment of like that pink cloud moment, and oftentimes like early in sobriety, like once we hit that, we're like, life is wonderful. Everything's great. All my problems are fixed. And then life continues to happen, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the things that, what does recovery look like for you now? And what are some of the things you do to keep going?
Well, one of the things that after going through that pink cloud moment and my sponsor telling me, you're going to go through your pink cloud. And my pink cloud, dude, was to the point where I felt fuzzy inside. I felt like vibrating in my sinuses. I was high on being sober. But then life. And one of the things that I realized, and I would tell other people, is that life didn't get any easier when I stopped drinking. I just got better at life because I had some tools. I had a little set of tools that if I was consistent with, and I didn't have to control it, I didn't have to come up with it, it didn't have to be my idea. It was just something given to me, freely given. And if I could follow some of those stuff, incorporate it into my life, I would do better at anger. I would do better at frustration, depression. In my career that I work now in commercial real estate, it helped me just follow the path that's meant for me. I don't have to know it. I do have to make sure that I remain of service. If I can remain of service in my AA group, then I'm doing that right. If I approach my job from the idea that I am being of service, then I'm able to take myself out of the middle and I live happier. That's been one of the biggest gifts of sobriety. Mm-hmm. Not having that sort of mix of visions of grandeur and self-doubt and overcompensating and all that fun stuff we do with our heads as we're trying to figure out life. And realizing, especially after going through four-step was a wonderful process. I recommend it to people who don't have a drinking problem. I recommend four-step as just a way to unload things that you carry with you. And some people talk about the four-step as like dropping a bag of bricks. And I don't necessarily like that analogy as much as taking out each brick, sitting with it, and putting it down. Because if I don't look at it, if I just drop my bag, then I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. I haven't put it through that wonderful matrix that I thought was so damn cool, right?
Yeah.
Like who and why am I writing everybody's name? And then you go back and then realizing that I could change any person's name with anybody else's name. So I'm not mad at that person. I'm mad at what was done. And what was done hurt me this way. And I'm responsible this way. And then I could put that brick aside. And it just, it really helped. There were people on my 9th step that I never thought, you know how they make that little list? And these are the people I'm never talking to. And as the years have gone by, I've found out, I reached out to my ex-wife. We finished on very bad terms. I was able to reach out and ask her for forgiveness for for my alcoholism or what I may have contributed to the failure of our marriage. And, keeping it very simple, just on the surface, but sincerely asking for forgiveness for something that I recognize I did wrong. And that has such a powerful effect in me. That idea of keeping your street clean. And then, my ex-wife, her reaction was very endearing. And I shared this at a meeting not too long ago. She reached back and told me how happy she was that I'd gotten sober, and she apologized for some things. And I realized that, I may have been angry at her for so many different reasons, but at one point we were in love and there was a lot of love between us. But did it work necessarily? No. Was it healthy? No. But this was somebody who I was in love with. And it felt really, really good to let go of that anger, those things that I was mad at her about or whatever. I could care less.
Yeah.
That is all the stuff we went through is trivial when you think about the life and death situation that I may have dodged because I would be there dead or under a bridge.
Yeah. Well, what you're explaining there is on par with that idea of integration from the world card, right? I like to say that this, yes, the 12 steps are there to help keep me sober, but really they're there to make me a better person, in this world. And much to the nod of like what it says in that last step of practicing these principles in all our affairs, like it has to integrate into your life, and not even, like you were saying, not even just to stay sober, but because like, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I like to complicate things. And sometimes if it's nice and simple, it's easy to deal with. And this is really simple, right? I just got to do these simple things and I can handle anything that life throws at me, No, that I can agree with completely. That going through that process, if people talk about, well, you go to the recovery and do your 12-step program, and sometimes in different groups, you get a hold of a group of people that kind of does whatever they want with the 12 steps. And I'm not here to criticize anybody's path to sobriety. If you get there, God bless you. But these tools
like literally going through each one of them, and not just, oh, this is a checkoff box, because the one leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other. And then I would explain it to some people who are early in the group as my 12 steps after I've gone through them. Now they're like engine lights that I've got to be watching and make sure that they're all in the green. Because if something starts to go to yellow or red, I'm doing something wrong. So I try to keep these on, because that's what keeps me in the correct sense of mind. It keeps me humble. And humility is such a wonderful gift. There's a big difference between humility and humiliation. And when drinking, we were so accustomed to humiliating ourselves with the anger we had post binge and how humiliating it was. And humiliation has nothing to do with humility. Understanding that I'm flawed and I'm loved anyway, that humbles me. Understanding that I don't have to be the best or the center of attention, or, I just have to be of service. And I have to do what I do to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And if I can do that, and it's funny here, I was cursed, with a certain level of intelligence, which got me into shitloads of trouble, because I could always think my way out of the problem until I couldn't. But now it's like, whoa, if I just would have used my intellect with something as simple as this program,
yeah,
how easy would it have been?
Yeah.
But then I think, no, this is the way I was meant to become sober.
Yeah.
I was meant to hit rock bottom at 47. I was meant to almost lose my family. I was meant to recover in Laredo, of all places. The last place in the world I ever thought I'd live. So Laredo has an incredible importance in my life for that. I've had 2 children here. Apparently we drank the water. There's something in that water.
Yes, there is.
And I'm able now. I tell people that I'm a horrible anonymous alcoholic. I am very vocal about my recovery. And I understand that anonymity in the initial portion of recovery is important to protect yourself. But once you get to a certain place, anonymity is to remind you that it's not about you. It's about what you can do. I had a beautiful experience with locally here. I went through a program where I met different city leaders, and I met Judge Victor Villarreal, and he does a DWI program where there's forced sobriety and they get checked, and instead of doing hard time, they're on this probationary thing. And if they're able to do it, they graduate and have their sentence commuted. I spoke in this group a little bit about my recovery, and the judge heard me talking, and he said, would you mind coming and being the speaker at their graduation? And fortunately, this is the first time I've had to be in court. It also was on the other side, right? I wasn't but they gave all these accolades, and they view your bio, and they read all this stuff about you. And I stopped, I began the conversation with these people in the room, saying all those things that they said about me are great, but I'm an alcoholic. And I'm here because I'm sober, but I'm an alcoholic, just like it is possible that some of you are. And as I told my story to some of these people in the room, I could see some faces just sort of, you could see this intensity of like, that is what I'm going through. And then you could see the faces of other people like, I just can't wait to get out of here and go have a drink, because I haven't been able to have a drink in 6 months because they keep testing my urine. You could see that there were some people that were ready and there were some people that weren't.
Yeah.
But I wanted to offer myself as service to give that message.
Yeah.
And I've found in odd locations, especially in real estate, as I travel or I'm talking to different people, I have to make it very clear that I don't drink because there's a lot of alcohol in my business. And people are like, really? You don't drink? Why? Well, you know, I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs. It's ugly. But it's always interesting. There's always somebody in the group that wants to know a little bit more about what it's like to be sober. Mm-hmm. And I've been given an incredible gift of sobriety. Yeah. And God's given me a gift of being able to speak to people. So I can't bury that under the ground. Yeah. I really have to live it. And it's one of the things that I think is so awesome about what you're doing and taking this platform and putting this out there, because these are conversations that are great for you and I to have, but they're also great for people to listen to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you know that because you came up with this.
It's that.
But I've got to compliment the host somehow.
It's that same mentality of, you know, like I have the means and the know-how to share people's stories, and I know the power of storytelling, right, and what that can do to someone. So why not find a way to amplify it? And I'm really grateful that you took the time to come and share your story with us. You know, much like the world card, it sounds like you really were able to take all the messy and painful and beautiful parts of your journey and put it back together into something that, you know.
There was a lot of glue gun.
Yeah.
There was some screws and a plate in my ankle. But, you know, the other thing that I realized is that I guess, you know, you might associate it with sort of addictive behavior. But now, you know, I've switched from being unhealthy so long in my life that now I've got an obsession with health.
Oh, yeah. You see it all the time.
It gets by a really good friend of mine. He's a voiceover actor out of Los Angeles. And he said, you know, dude, there's so much shit on social media that sometimes I just like to see the fact that you were taking Taekwondo or you were at the gym or you're posting stuff about downtown, because what I'm doing with Killam Development right now is the downtown renovation, which is truly dear to my heart. It is this incredible opportunity to give to the city that I've fallen in love with. Mm-hmm. And I get to do it sober, dude. So I don't get to get in the fucking way of myself.
Yeah.
And that's cool. It's so yeah, I'm going to project the things that are important to me. Yeah. Right. You're not going to see shots of me drinking on my Facebook anymore. Great. I joke with some buddies, like, dude, you realize that every time you post something, you're posting what you're drinking online. Like, oh, we went out to look at our drinks. Oh, we're going out. Look at our drinks. Yeah. And that's cool. I'm so glad that you can do it, because I can't. Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited to see where the journey takes you, you know, as you continue to go down it. Are you ready to get into some rapid fire?
Oh, dear. Wait, let me have a peanut.
Starts the clock. No, it's only rapid fire because I try not to respond in any which way, shape, or form. But
yes, sir.
Fill in the blank. Recovery has given me
a wonderful outlook on life.
What's one word you'd use to describe your recovery journey?
Oh.
That's a good word.
Oh. That's actually, let me rephrase it. Oh, that's my recovery journey.
Yeah. What's a daily habit or ritual that keeps you grounded?
Prayer.
If you find yourself struggling or triggered, what's the first thing you do?
I drink soda water.
This or that, morning routine or night routine?
Morning routine.
Meditation or movement?
Both.
Talking it out or writing it down?
Talking it out.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Name one book, song, movie, or television show that's been meaningful to your recovery.
Oh, I try to watch This Is Us with my wife, and I can't. And she's like, what's wrong with you? I get 3 minutes into any episode, and I'm bawling mess in tears. So,
yeah.
Oh, and then this isn't something I've seen, because sometimes these things are hard for me to watch. And I know this is rapid fire and I'm taking way too long, but my dad, who I've talked to about my recovery, watched the movie Beautiful Boy. Mm. And he said that watching that movie about addiction and all the things that, go on in that movie helped him understand what I was going through. And it brought him to tears. It brought me to tears. It was a beautiful way for my dad to say, I'm proud of you for being sober. And we talk about these making amends, and making an amends sounds like a finite action, when I think I need to live in a constant state of amend, because that's living in gratitude.
Yeah.
So to share my life with my dad and my mom and be open about recovery has been a beautiful thing. And then for my dad to get interested in learning a little bit about it, and then watching something and then associating and then calling me up in tears. I guess that movie, even though I can't watch it because I'm just a crybaby.
Yeah. And now we're all crying. What is a piece of advice you return to when things get tough?
Serenity prayer.
One phrase or mantra that you carry with you.
This is not about me.
And if somebody hears your story today and takes one thing away from it, what do you hope it is?
You can get sober and it's worth it.
Okay. Yes, it is. Well, thank you, Brian, for, taking the time and the courage to come on and share your story with us. It was fantastic.
Well, I told you I am a horrible anonymous alcoholic.
You and me both. And this was even when I was drinking. I was not an anonymous alcoholic. I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I'm an alcoholic. Just owning it for years.
I don't do meetings. No.
Yes, very much so. And I think, the world needs less anonymous alcoholics. So I'm happy that you are, part of that. So. Well,
I saw what you were doing, and I thought it was amazing. Even before that, I saw you post a chip, and I've known you in theater, and I think the last time we seriously spoke, we were both very drunk.
Yes, we were.
But I guess I just got so proud. I just had this moment of like, oh my God, this is so beautiful for Chibi. And that's what happens when you're part of a recovery community. Mm-hmm. Somebody else's victory, that's what you celebrate. Yeah. That's, and people will say, well, no, don't celebrate my sobriety. No, you got to fucking let me celebrate your sobriety, because it's helpful to me.
That's how it works.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I want to celebrate your sobriety, and this is one of the ways that I guess I can help do that.
Thank you. And here's to many more years of doing that.
There.
That's it for this episode of The Speaker Meeting, breaking the silence one story at a time. A huge thank you to our guests today for sharing their journey with us. Recovery isn't easy, but conversations like this remind us that we're not alone and that change is possible. If you're struggling, know that there is help and there is hope. You don't have to do this alone. For immediate support, you can reach out to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. It's free, confidential, and available 24/7. And if you'd like to share your own story, I'd love to hear from you. You can submit your information at geminisproductions.com/thespeakermeeting. And if this conversation meant something to you, help us spread the word. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. The more we talk about recovery, the more we remind people that they are not alone. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and remember, recovery is real.